Well, hey, Vision. Okay, it's great to see you today. And this is Jerry Macero. And was that you?
That was I.
That was you? You jumped out of a plane?
That was my dream.
That was you?
That's me.
All right. Well, this all started from a conversation around the first of the year between me and Jerry and Kira. We were talking about our bucket list. And at age 76, Jerry just said, I want to jump out of a plane someday. I said, really? I would love to do that. So how about we get a group together and do it? And we had, 23, 24 of us do it.
Yes.
So girl, tell us,
wonderful.
how you feeling? What are you thinking?
And when I said I wanted to jump out of a plane, he said, what? I said, I do. He said, really? Yeah. But before I say any more, may I just say what I want to say?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, got permission for this one. I want to say, good morning, Vision family. Whoa, that feels so good. I always wanted to do that, and I got to do that one. So we can put that as part of my dream too.
And how about I'll say, hey, Vision, you guys say, hey, Jerry. Hey, Vision. Hey, Jerry. Oh, look at that, girl. You're a star.
Okay.
All right, so you have some prepared comments, and then I have some impromptu questions. So tell us what you got.
First, I want to thank my Pastor Matt and my church.
Oh, real close, right there.
My church, I did it again, didn't I? My Vision family. Yeah, for sharing my dream with me. I mean, 23 people, I never dreamed that was going to happen. So I always told myself, and Pastor Matt had asked me, won't you be afraid? I said, I don't know, I haven't done it yet. So, I always told myself to fight my fears. We all have fears. Maybe we don't tell anybody, big ones, small ones. You don't tell anybody because nobody's going to understand. Yeah, they are. So, so I had a fear. You may not believe it. If I can jump out of a plane, you don't think, well, she can get through anything. It was of escalators. Now, that sounds funny. If I could jump out of a plane, why was I afraid of an escalator?
Right there.
Okay, sorry.
I can hold it for you.
Okay. I'm trying to tell you. So this summer, I was away in Chicago at a mall, at a big mall, with a big escalator. And I looked and thought, all right. And I got on it, and I did it. And I did. My heart didn't beat. I used to feel my heart up in my head. My hands didn't shake. I didn't sweat. And I knew I had it beat. And how did I beat it? By doing it. When you do what you're afraid of, little by little, now you can do it all at once, you're not afraid of it anymore. It doesn't own you, and it does own us.
Good word.
So when you block your dreams, you allow your fears to grow bigger than your faith. I jumped out of that plane. I knew I was with God. In fact, I never felt so close to God. So when you're afraid, do the thing you're afraid of. It's amazing. It really what does work. It helped me. I'm 76, and I would just say, never let a number stop you from living your dream, whatever it is.
Yes.
So I speak a lot about the internal dialogue, which is that little record we all play in our head that nobody else can hear but us. So when you think you can, engrave those words into your mind, because they are, they're just wonderful. They'll make you strong when you constantly build yourself up. You don't need anybody to pull you down. So these words are packed with power and truth. So, and when you're, all right. When I jumped from the plane, that's what I wanted to say. And I wasn't afraid.
You weren't afraid?
But I was afraid of an escalator, so you figured that one out. I loved it. It was wonderful. I'd do it again in a minute. In fact, I said that as soon as I landed. So thank you, family.
Wow. Well, I love hanging around people that inspire me. And so really, in the weeks and months leading up to the jump, I love the fact that I have a 76-year-old sister in Christ who is inspiring me. And hopefully, from time to time, I inspire you. And that's part of this journey. Is together we do that. And in that, we had, like I said, 23 people that jumped and other people that day there to cheer and watch, and people watching online. And I would hope that even in a little piece, you guys get some inspiration from her as she faced her fears. She did. So, Jerry, what's the last thing you'd say to somebody who may be sitting there, and I'm gonna preach this message today about facing our fears and not letting fear be a liar that holds us back. What would you say to somebody as the last thing about them facing their fears?
It's your fear. Only you own it, but you can beat it. You know you can. You tell yourself positive things all the time. And you will see, I'm sure they're going to show that. When I first met my trainer, I think he tried to frighten me. And he said, his name was Scott, and Scott said, Jerry, we're going to do this together, honey. You're going to be fine. I did this once, he said, and I'm pretty sure I remember. I think I remember. but don't worry, I got it covered for us. And I just laughed. I laughed. I said, Scott, you're full of it. I said, okay, well, apparently that didn't work too well, so we moved on. So when we were on the plane, ready to jump, he went to me, like he's in back of me, going. And when I seen it the first time, I went, why did he say I was crazy? And I thought, okay, Scott, I'll be the crazy one. And what do you do for a living? So that's it. I loved it. It was amazing. So maybe we can dream of something else. Everybody dream. Maybe we'll come up with some ideas for something new.
Okay, well, we're working on it. All right, Vision, let's make some noise for Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you, girl. All right, you can put that on a stand right over there. Okay, guys, we're continuing our Fear Factor series. If you got your takeaway card, you got your Bible app, pull it out. As we're talking about how we face things in our life where I really think God wants us to take steps forward, and fear pushes us back. And really, our big concept today is that fear is a liar, that there is truly an adversary in our life who's trying to keep us back. And I think about our lives, how there's all kind of different areas where we want to take steps forward, and fear is right there. Okay, like, for example, has anybody ever been nervous, like the guys in here, about kissing the lady you were going to date? You're like, it's your first date or it's your 10th date, I'm going to kiss her for the first time, and you're scared. Now, Drew, really, were you scared? Chris, you scared? I remember back to Scott Hall on the campus of UNC Charlotte. Me and Megan dated a couple times. We go walking back in for the night, and in the lobby by the vending machines, it was like, that was my moment. My moment. I thought it was my moment. Like, is this my moment? Should this be my moment? What's she thinking? What's going to happen? What if she turns away? What if she slaps me? Like, all these things go through your head. It's like fear. It is. You're laughing, but Bill, you were there, weren't you? You were there. You were there. Okay, maybe you get fearful about getting married. You're like, whoo, man, big step, big commitment. Fearful about buying a house. You know, when you buy your first house, you're like, how much is this? And how many payments? And how much this? And fearful about kids. See, especially maybe once like you're already pregnant and you're thinking it's getting closer and closer, and you're like, oh my goodness, how am I going to care for a human being? Fear starts welling up. You're like, I don't know, I can't do it. I don't know if I can do this. How about maybe on a more day-to-day basis, you ever get fearful of tough conversations? You wake up thinking, oh man, I got to talk to so-and-so today. I've got to talk to them about this issue in our relationship, or this issue at work, or I have to tell them something they don't want to hear, and fear is just like welling up. And sometimes, a lot of times, you just kind of get passive and you push away from it. And God says, no, you need to step into that. We can overcome that together. There's all kind of fears in our daily life, and honestly, there's fears in our spiritual life too. Because many times, we get a little nudge from God that we want to take a step toward Him, maybe for the first time. Maybe you're here at Vision, and you're wrestling with this concept of God and a relationship, and is Jesus real? And maybe your fear is, and I can't commit myself to somebody, to a Savior, to a leader, to a doctrine. I can't commit myself to a Bible. And this fear is holding you back. Or maybe you've been walking with Him for years. And you're like, man, I'm scared about leading my family in prayer. I'm scared about actually trying to open my Bible and understand it. I'm scared about praying because I don't know how to do it. And fear holds you back from a next step you're going to take spiritually, or at work, or in a relationship, or in a house, or a kid. And Satan looks at you and says, yeah, I got you right where I want you, because I am whispering in your ear all kind of lies to hold you back. I say no more. I say no more, because we've been looking at this guy Joshua in the series. This guy Joshua, who his story comes up to some stones. In Joshua 3 and 4, he's standing in front of the Jordan River, and what I like to do is I like to really personalize this and envision it like, how about the night before? The night before, they're supposed to cross the Jordan River, and this river is roaring past. This river is 3 to 10 feet deep, anywhere from 100 yards to several hundred yards wide. It's at flood stage. It looks impossible. He's standing there. I just wonder if he's like thinking, God, I don't know if I can do this. Did you say I'm supposed to cross it? I'm supposed to lead people through this? I'm supposed to do this? This is my faith step? I'm supposed to do this? And I wonder if he's hearing fear whisper in his ear, because around 40 years before that, don't miss this, his mentor, Moses, had stood in front of that river, maybe with a rock in his hand, holding it, saying, God, I don't know if I can do this. Should I do this? Did you really say the promised land? Can I really cross this and take this land? And fear is whispering in his ear. And Moses turned around and walked away. Now, in terms of the rocks, okay, Micah, if you got them, roll in our wheelbarrow of rocks. And Micah's like, man, I didn't sign up for this, man. Oh, big old, this is like, working on the road crew or something, man, rolling in rocks. And then Pastor Matt. But hopefully you either brought a rock with you to church or you got one on the way in, because I want you to have a rock in your hand. So, in fact, if you don't have a rock in your hand, raise your hand. I'm going to grab all these guys in the back corner. They're going to walk up here and grab some handfuls of rocks. So if you don't have a rock in your hand, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Don't be embarrassed. You're like, I missed it on the way in, Pastor Matt. I forgot to get one. If you need a rock, because I want you to have a rock in your hand, because if the message is really bad, you can pummel me with the rocks. Man. No, okay, that's not the offer. That's not the offer. But I promise you, in the next couple minutes, you'll be able to do something with that rock that will symbolically help you to face your fear. Because fear is a liar. So repeat that after me. Fear is a liar. Come on, now say it with some conviction. Fear is a liar. Because as Joshua stood there that night, or maybe that morning, it's dark out. He's looking out the river, and it's still roaring. The river's still flowing. He's like, God, I thought the plan was to cross this thing today. What's going on? And he's got this rock in his hand. And, if you saw the video I posted, man, I love skipping rocks. It's like, man, I like, when you're nice and relaxed or you're thinking, you're just like skipping rocks. And Joshua, I don't think he was in that mode of skipping rocks. He was in that mode of maybe taking them. He was like, come on, God. Like, I'm scared about this, God. Like, really, people getting up soon, God. Something's supposed to happen today, God. You said it would happen. And I think Joshua, in his frustration, is maybe throwing rocks in that water. And I said, okay, I can relate to that. You can relate to being in a spot where you are facing fear, and it's pushing you back. Now, Jesus, he talked about this many generations later in the New Testament when Jesus said there is an opponent who is pushing you back with his lies. There is an adversary who is fighting against you with his lies. Look at this in John chapter 8. Jesus said of Satan, he was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth. For there is no truth in Satan, in the devil, in the evil one. There's no truth. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. So you understand, not only does he lie, he's birthing all these other lies, sending them out through other people, sending them out through other situations. He's saying, come on, I'm going to send that out. I'm going to get that to them. So she gets scared. So he gets scared. So they don't take the step God wants them to take. Satan's trying to do everything he can to push you out of the abundant life and into a place. Remember we talked about being chained? About being chained, whether to your past, chained to a lie, chained to fear. Jesus said, this is a battle we're in, guys. In fact, Paul, he wrote about this in Ephesians 6. He said, put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. That when that lie comes, you say, no, I'm not believing that. I'm listening to my Savior. I'm not listening to the liar. I talk to people all the time and say, man, I would like to read the Bible more. I don't know where, or I don't know how. I don't know what to do. If you only get one thing today, get this. If you're in a spot where you don't know where to read, then at the minimum, turn to Ephesians 6, 10 through 18, and read about the armor of God. You're like, Pastor Matt, it's Thursday morning. I don't know where to read, so I'm not going to read. Then you turn to Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 18, and you read about the armor of God. You think about it piece by piece. Remember, we did all these things, these motions. You think about putting on this armor, and you walk out into battle knowing that there is an opponent who's trying to knock you down in battle, and especially with lies. Well, lying, as you know, it tears apart a relationship. If you have ever been in a relationship that was good and then was average and then was bad because lying got in there, you know how damaging lying is to a relationship. In our home, in fact, we got 3 kids. And, over the years, 18 years of parenting now, we've had kids steal, we've had kids cheat, we've had kids not do their chores, we've had kids punch each other in the face. We've done all this kind of stuff. And lying is kind of like a different spot. Because when there's lying involved and trust erodes and a relationship breaks down, say, man, we got a lot of work to do to rebuild. So you think about Joshua and his relationship with God, and Joshua wasn't lying, God wasn't lying, but Satan was getting in there saying, actually, let me kind of try to damage this relationship by the power of lies. That Joshua, you're not going to see God as clearly maybe as you used to. You're not going to trust him as much as you really should. And Satan gets in there with lies, and he tries to damage Joshua's relationship with God. So I guess I'd ask you personally, so how is your relationship with God in terms of trusting him? In terms of when you're in that moment, you're saying, God, I really think you want me to change jobs. God, I really think you do want me to ask this person to marry me. God, I really think you do want me to change the way I speak or the things that I post or the things that I look at. But God, you're calling me to be a person of integrity, but oh man, I can't do it. I'm not worthy of that. I'm not good enough. They're going to laugh at me. And you step back because Satan got in your ear and gave you lies. When you're trying to move forward, God says, come on, let's go. I'm a God of truth. Let's move forward in truth. So it takes us into our story. Joshua chapter 3 says, after 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people. When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God and the Levitical priests carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. Think about that phrase. Since you have never been this way before. Okay, how many of us have ever been in a spot where God is leading us somewhere we've never been before? In the way you pray, in the way you read, in the conversations you have, in the way that you're kind of raising your level of integrity, in the way you're starting to give or you're starting to serve, and you're like, God, I've never been there before. I've never done that. I've never trusted you with my money. I never trusted you with serving. God, it makes me nervous to be in front of people, get up on a stage, or to do something for you. And you say, I've never been there before. So that's where Joshua was. He'd never been there before. It says, but keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits between you and the ark. Don't go near it. That's about respect. That's about awe. That's about God in his awesomeness. And God's like, hey, we're tight. We're in relationship with each other. But don't forget, you need to hold me in awe and respect. And that's not God having a power trip. That's God trying to keep in our minds the fact that he's awesome and I'm not. And so for the Israelites, he's saying, hey, remember, I'm the awesome one, and let's go somewhere together. Verse 5, Joshua told the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Okay, would anybody in here like to see God do amazing things through you? Man, I do. I don't want to live a boring life. I want to see him do amazing things. And that's not about me getting a title or money or acclaim. That's about me stepping back and saying, look what God did. That was amazing. God says, you want me to do that? Consecrate yourself. Like, consecrate? Yeah, basically it means prepare yourself. It means purify yourself. It means be a tool that's ready to be used in the hands of an awesome God. Because if God's going to do something through you that's amazing, honestly, he's not going to do it if you just have kind of a lukewarm faith. You're like, oh man, that's not real nice. That's just the reality. He's looking for people, like we talked about recently, that are champions of faith, that are champions saying, God, I'm trusting you, and I want to move forward in faith. I'm not going to listen to the lies. I'm going to move forward and trust you, God. And God says, okay, then consecrate yourself. And you're like, Pastor Matt, sometimes that's tough. Yes, it is tough. When you got this sin up here or this sin in here and nobody else knows about it but you and God's saying, hey, until we work on that, we're not moving forward. Now, we'll help you with that here at Vision. We're not going to judge you and cast you aside. We'll walk with you and say, come on, let's go somewhere together. Let's consecrate ourselves to something holy and amazing. All right, continues in verse 9. Joshua said to the Israelites, come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you know that the living God is among you and he certainly will drive out before you all those bad guys with weird names. All right. See, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. And as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and stand in a heap. So make sure you could picture this in your face, that in your mind, in your heart, you're understanding that the river is, it's flowing. It hasn't changed yet, just like in your situation with the tough conversation or leading your family in prayer or giving or doing whatever. You're like, God, I need to see some results first. He says, no, that's not how it works. That these priests move up there and they're like, Josh, are you sure, man? Are you sure we're supposed to step in here? Because a couple of things are going to happen. Either we're stepping in here and boom, we're getting knocked down the river. We're stepping in here and kind of like bracing ourselves against the river. Or we're stepping in here saying, no, man, this isn't happening today. We're stepping back. I mean, how's Joshua feeling? He's saying, guys, this is what God told me. This is what God said to do. They said, okay, we're not listening to the lying. In my ear, in my head, I'm taking a step. They step in the river. So, when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Now, the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. So make sure you understand, this isn't like a little creek down at the ranch where you kind of step in and like, ooh, my foot's getting wet, or ooh, I'm stepping in mud, or ooh, here comes a snake or something. Like, no, this is really, it's like life and death. Rushing water, you get knocked down, taken under the water. This is fear. It says, yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, and if this was of the movie, it'd be like, cut to commercial. You're like, what? What's going to happen? Or even worse, it's like, check back next week. You're like, no, man. I want to watch this on Netflix in a couple months so I can just zoom on through it. You're like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And that's exactly where I get. And exactly where you get. You're like, God, I don't know. But I'm going to walk in there. I'm going to sit down and we're going to have the conversation. God, I don't know, but I'm going to walk in there and I'm telling him I'm resigning because God's taking me somewhere else. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to start this relationship. Or I'm going to go in there and I'm going to start giving. Or I'm going to say I'm going to sign up to serve. Or whatever it looks like in your world. You're like, okay, God, here we go. Hey, did anybody ever jump off the tower at Robinwood Lake? Ever do that? Honestly, that scared me way more than jumping out of a plane. You're like, what? Honestly, a plane, it's like flying to me. You jump out of a plane, it feels like you're flying. Robinwood Lake, it's maybe, 20, 25 feet tall. And back at my old church, we would go there once a year for a baptism service, and I'd always climb to the top. And I get up there, and I'm like, man, I'm just as scared as last year. Whew, and I back off, and all the little 7 and 8-year-olds, they're like, come on, Matt. And they're getting up there, and they're flipping off there, and stuff. And I'm like, whew, I could feel, literally the fear in me to jump off this tower. Whew. And then just every time you finally would convince yourself, because it's like you can't do the walk of shame and like climb back down the ladder among all the kids. And they're like, what's wrong with that man? He peed his there. We're like, no. Okay. So literally, you just have to go. And you just have to trust. And you just have to jump. And so you continue then, and verse 16 says, what happened? The water stopped flowing. The water from upstream stopped flowing. You're like, nah, did it just like it wasn't a big day for water? No, it was at flood stage. You're like, nah, did they just, whoever was taking notes that day, they missed it and really the water was just down, it hadn't rained in a while. Now, here is what I believe happened. Because I researched this and they said that the Jordan River throughout history has rare times where upstream there is a landslide. This happened in the 1920s. There was a landslide actually 20 miles upstream in the town Adam, which is referred to in the story, that says that dirt and rock and everything slid down there, and it stopped up the river so that eventually the water gets down, it runs out to where you can cross it. You're like, man, what a coincidence. Man, they were lucky. That is incredible. Like, God doesn't do coincidences. Okay, because God picked the day and the time and the moment and knew about the fear and knew about the doubt. And I think he went to one of his angels and said, hey, go 20 miles up, blink, and knock some rocks down so that when they start heading toward the water, they can't see that. They don't know what's happening. I promise you, God's working in your situation if you will trust him. Okay, he's doing something if you trust him. That's what happened. Said it piled up in a heap a great distance away at a town called Adam in the vicinity of Zarethan, while the water flowing down to the Sea of Arabah, that is the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. You're like, that can't happen. Said when God does it, it can happen. That's what he does. God does things that we can't make happen. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground. This is so strange. Okay, last night I was out the ranch. I'm working on my message. I'm praying for you guys. I'm looking at the water. And I thought, we've been out there for over 10 years, I thought, what if I came out here tomorrow morning and I could walk to the island? You know, it's like 5-10 feet deep. And if it was dry, that I would walk out there toward the island at the ranch, the one that, you think you paddled around it, right? You had the volunteer day, and they're paddling around it. It's never been dry. Okay, since we've been there, it's never been dry. But if I went out there this morning, and I could walk out there like it says, and they went and they stood on dry ground, these people weren't used to seeing dry ground in the Jordan River. God did something amazing because they had consecrated themselves for that moment. Said, God, I want some of that. All right, continue, says, all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground. So here's the question. How can I overcome my fear and take more steps of faith? This is where the rubber meets the road. If you're like, Pastor Matt, good message. Man, Joshua, great story. Hey, that's good for somebody. No, this is good for you. Because these next 5 minutes, this is where the rubber meets the road. If you want to experience amazing things, steps of faith. 5 things. First of all, seek out and consider counsel from others. Seek out and consider counsel from others. Okay, so repeat after me. Counsel from others. Okay, what this means is you're not alone on the journey. You haven't got it all figured out. I haven't got it all figured out. We help each other figure it out. Proverbs 11:14 says, for lack of guidance, a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors. I love being on this journey, particularly with men and women who maybe have been on it longer than me or have had different life experiences or seen God in different ways. And I get together with them and say, hey man, I'm thinking about doing this. Man, it feels like a big faith step. I'm not sure. What do you think? Does this sound like me? Does it sound like something God would do in my life? Do you think this is something reasonable, rational that God would do? And they're like, man, I don't know. I mean, big faith and stuff, man, that sounds, I don't know. Or they speak into it and say, actually, Matt, that totally sounds like a next faith step for you. That totally sounds what God wants to do in you. And you get some people around you that love you enough to speak honestly. This is not getting you some yes men around you, but some people that look you in the eyes and say, Michelle, this sounds like this could be your next faith step. I'm going to pray for you in that as you consider that, which leads to point number 2. Be intentional about solitary time with God. Solitary time with God. So repeat after me. Solitary time with God. Okay, hey, it is wonderful to spend an hour together each week in here. It's great maybe if you go spend an hour a week in a small group, or you come play in a band, or you hang out with your friends, you have times with counsel, you talk, you shoot basketball together. All those things are great, and you got to have some alone time with God. If you're wanting God to do something amazing through you, and you're praying, saying, okay, God, I want to hear you in this, I'm going to trust you in this, and you talk to some counsel, and they're like, yeah, actually, Andy, that might be you, that might work for you. Life mashes us down with distractions. Phones and computers and TVs and jobs and families and kids, and many of those things are good, but you got to have some time where you discipline yourself and you go to some place where your phone's off and your computer's out of sight and your family can't reach you and you're sitting somewhere and you're like, God, what are you telling me in this? God, what do you want me to do in this? And we see this modeled in the Gospels in Jesus. It says in Mark 1:35, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, he left the house, and he went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Another gospel even says, as his normal habit was, Jesus went off by himself. You have got to have some of this time. If you want to overcome fear and take steps of faith, first is a counsel, second is some solitary time. Number 3, remember what God has done in the past. Remember. So repeat after me. Remember what God has done. Okay, now, I know last week, this was cool to see. Some people really were paying attention last week, because if you saw last week, we did not fill in one of the blanks. Some people came to the blue room afterwards and said, Pastor Matt, what is the answer to this last one? We missed it. I said, cool, you were watching. I didn't fill that one in yet. You're right. We held it off a week because this concept is called an Ebenezer. It's called an Ebenezer. That in 1 Samuel 7:12, it says, Samuel took a stone. He set it up between Mizpah and Shen. He named it Ebenezer, saying, thus far the Lord has helped us. And Ebenezer simply means a stone of help. So what I want to encourage you to do is when you see God work in your life, you mark it in your journal, on a piece of paper, on your computer, on your phone, with a picture. Tell somebody. You mark it so that when you look back, you can see all the times that God worked. You remember how he worked in the past. That will help you when you're facing the next one, which usually they're getting bigger and bigger. So you're like, God, I've never been here before. Whoo, this is big. You look back and say, actually, yeah, God, you did that and did that and did that. Okay, I see you working there, God. I'm going to remember what you did in the past. Now, that's not what these rocks are for. Because I want you to figure out on your own what you want to use as an Ebenezer in your life. But I want you to get the counsel. I want you to spend time with God one-on-one. And I want you to remember what God has done in the past. But you can't do just those 3. You got the last 2 to make this thing work. Number 4, do my part. So repeat after me. Do my part. Say it again. Do my part. Okay, because it's not going to be enough that you kind of like sit on the couch and say, okay, God, man, I really want you to speak to so-and-so about the conflict in our relationship. I know it's going to be a tough thing for them to hear, but you got to tell them. God says, actually, I put you there to tell them. Actually, okay, God, I want to see you work in our finances in a way that's incredible. Just bless us. God says, actually, I want you to do your part before I do my part. It's interesting how Jesus talked about this in the New Testament. He talked almost like in business terms about plans and making plans and thinking things through. And you say, Jesus, where's the faith? Where's just moving forward by faith? Jesus said, yes, there's faith. And there also is being very logical and reasonable. Jesus, in Luke 14, this is in your takeaway card, you can look at it this week, he says, hey, before you build a tower, you make plans, don't you? Before you go to war, don't you put together all the strategies? He said, you would not go to war or build a tower without making plans. Literally, he's saying, without doing your part to prepare. God is saying to you, you want to overcome the lie of fear? You do your part. And number 5, trust God to do his part. So say, trust God to do his part. Because I want to see God do his part. Because his capacity is way bigger than mine in terms of seeing amazing things. I said, but God, I'm scared. God says, trust me to do my part. I said, God, I don't know. Are you going to be there? And we think back to Joshua chapter 1. You remember throughout the chapter, God kept saying to Joshua, don't fear, don't fear. I'm with you, I'm with you. In Joshua 1:9, where it says, have I not commanded you, Joshua? Tommy, have I not commanded you? Scott, have I not commanded you? Laura, have I not commanded you? Be strong and be courageous. Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go, whatever fear you face, whatever comes in front of you, says, I'm with you. So as we wrap this up, continue the story in Joshua 4:18. It says, the priests came up out of the river carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord. No sooner had they set their feet on the dry ground than the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and ran at flood stage as before. You're like, that's an amazing coincidence. It's not coincidental at all. That when you walk out of that tough meeting you had, but you rose up and you spoke truth into them. Or you come away from that opportunity to serve. You say, man, I was scared trying it. Oh, those teenagers are so terrifying. But I tried it. Or you say, I'm gonna give for the first time. Or I'm gonna serve somebody or invite somebody to church for the first time. I'm gonna do this. God says, then yet you'll see me do something amazing. As they walked on their side of that river and looked back, and the water starts filling back to flood stage. So what about the rock? So grab your rock and hold that in your hand. Because the 5 different points I've given you today to try, many times it's still on this side of the scale, and fear is just so heavy. Like, Matt, how do I do that? I'm talking to my friends and getting counsel. I'm spending time with God doing that. I'm trying to remember what He did, and I'm doing my part, and I'm trusting God for His part, but I'm still scared. Well, I love this one short verse that was written generations later by a guy just like us. His name is Peter. And in 1 Peter 5, he says, cast your cares, or cast your anxiety, or cast your fears on the Lord because He cares for you. He literally says, you take your fear and you cast it to God. I mean, literally, you get rid of it. You give it away. And it's gone. You take your rock and you say, okay, look, my fear is like everybody else's fear. What do I do with it? He says there's only one place to take it, and it's not back in a pile. So, man, you take it and you cast it on God. Instead of just throwing that river out of frustration, you take it, you throw it in there and say, God, you got this. This is a verse you want to lock in so that when fear is whispering in your ear and you are scared to pieces, like, man, I can't do this. I can't do it, God. Remember, wait a second, I can cast my fear on God because He cares for me. So your rock, you got it in your hands, and I want you to think about the fear or the fears that are weighing you down. The fear that's been with you for years, or maybe just since last week, or the fear about tomorrow, and you're holding it. And during our closing song today, our guy's going to move this box and put it right here, and you will have a chance to walk up during the song and literally cast your fear to Christ. Because He cares for you. He doesn't care for like the big group. He cares for Jerry. He cares for John. He cares for Dale. He cares for Doug. He cares for you. And He says, I'll take it all. Cast all you got. I'll take it.